Hey, what's up, y'all? I decided to go back to making instructional videos, which I like, and teaching. My intention is to basically benefit people as much as possible because I feel there's a big gap in the public's knowledge in a certain area which I call human bioelectricity. That's not a term I invented necessarily, but that's one easy way to say it that can relate, people can relate to it scientifically. But basically, every aspect of the human body is essentially electrical in nature. A lot of people talk about vibes and auras, and that's basically like the composite of all these different factors. But what I'm saying is every structure in the body, from the biggest to the smallest, all is an electrostatic device, and that's very easy to demonstrate. I mean, if you study the basic biology of a cell membrane, for example, you'll see that it contains a phospholipid layer around the outside, which effectively creates a certain level of impedance of electric current. And most of the processes that happen in the cell, every single process in cellular biology generally is mediated by some type of electrical function, like salts and nutrients entering into the cell, for example. Communication going back and forth through the cellular membranes, like all these different things are mitigated by an electrostatic process that's facilitated by the cell's electric potential difference, the voltage of the difference between the inside of the membrane and the outside of the membrane. And that's used to drive every cellular process that happens. So that's just one example. Then you have hemoglobin, for example, which is an iron-based toroidal molecule that is basically what we would call a ferrofluid within the blood. And basic physics will teach you that anytime you have a moving magnet, such as the iron nucleus of the hemoglobin molecule, it creates an electrostatic flow. And there's physicists that spend their entire life studying ferrofluids, and in fact, most of the most highly advanced propulsion systems and technology that would make everything that we have in our entire society completely obsolete involves these ferrofluids. So anyways, let's just say a lot of people know about this. Well, why isn't it taught about the human body? Like, I went to medical school, I studied a lot of physiology, a lot of cellular biology, and generally this whole concept is almost only referred to in the most oblique way, when in fact almost the entirety of human biology is affected by the concept of a ferrofluid, and how the pumping of the blood within the human body creates a massive electrostatic field around the entire body. And it's measurable, and it's actually been studied quite extensively, but yet very little of this has permeated out into the public sphere in terms of our conceptions about human health. But what I learned at a very early age, when I was about 16 or 17, I started studying Taoism and Chinese alchemy, Qigong, martial arts, and all these types of things. I was very fascinated. And so what you learn is the ancient Vedic system and the ancient Chinese martial arts system all makes reference to what's called qi, or body energy, bioelectrical energy, and how you can build it, how your body is essentially has varying degrees of capacitance for this energetic function, and how you can train yourself, what you can eat in terms of minerals and salts in particular to enhance this, how you enhance it through studying breath retention. Pranayama in yogic systems is the retention, but more importantly, redirection of prana within the body. And prana is just a term for this bioelectricity, much like qi is in Chinese. And in Tibetan yoga too, they have this, it's all based on the earlier yogic systems by and large, but they also have what they call tsa-lung, which is, the channels of energy and the flow that moves through them. And so this has been widely known for thousands of years, and frankly, most of psychic phenomena and all these supernormal abilities, what they call supernormal, which is actually just normal and natural for everyone, but supernormal abilities generally relate to this same concept. And I think that's a large part of why it's suppressed. And we have a completely materialistic system of fake science. And all the really advanced scientists know that everything's about energy, because energy can flow and transfer invisibly, right? In most cases, right? So they want everyone to focus on the material, what can be weighed and measured and bought and sold as a commodity. But if you realize there's an infinite sea of energy everywhere, then why would anyone pay for power or like all these different medical treatments and devices when you could just tap into this omnipresent basic quantum flux field that pervades all space and matter itself? And this is actually taught in every single system, even going back to ancient Christianity and all these conventional systems that everyone knows about already. They all teach the same thing. In Christianity and Greek philosophy, they have what's called the pneuma, which is your spiritual energy. You know what I mean? We equate it to pneumatics or flow of gases, but it's much more subtle than that in this philosophical system. You know, then you have spiritus, you know, in Latin, and it's all these same things. It's an intangible, immeasurable, invisible, traceless, energetic flow. So anyway, the point is to say that human bioelectricity is a very important topic to study, and it can lead to radical transformations in your consciousness. Just change the way that you think about life in general and how you lead your life. Because if you take an energetic perspective on everything and you realize that everything ultimately is an exchange of energy, and then you get into stuff like the vibe of the energy, the frequency of it, the modulation of it, and how different types of energy for humans is very toxic or very nurturing or just energizing generally. And if you start to think about these terms and you think about it, you can lead your life in a vastly different way. And you stop quantifying everything in terms of material assets, your fucking clothes and your fashions and all this bullshit. That doesn't mean anything, dude. It doesn't do anything except internally in your mind. You know what I mean? If something makes you feel beautiful or confident or whatever, that's purely psychological. Like anyone can put on some costume and they could think whatever they want about themselves, you know? And it doesn't really change anything. But if you capture this, if you capture the mind and the faculty within us that makes us feel beautiful or powerful or whatever it is, then there's no need for any of this material nonsense. And that's why you see all the great philosophers and spiritual leaders throughout time have been renunciates. And they get rid of all their possessions because they realize there's an infinite sea of energy to be tapped into. And it gives you supernormal powers, past life regression, you know, hypnotic powers, like anything. It's all there, you know what I mean? People levitate, people fly through the sky, people die and their bodies don't decay for long periods of time. Or some, you know, they found monks encased and like mummified essentially that are actually still alive after thousands of years. You can detect their biofunctions and you can detect these electrical phenomena. So the point is, if you take one simple detail of what's called human bioelectricity, it opens a whole realm of inconceivable beauty, mystery, power, wisdom, perfect health. And that's exactly why this single concept is completely forbidden by our entire society. Everything we have in terms of culture, quote-unquote science and education, and our economic system is all structured to erase this whole concept from your consciousness. Because if you understood it, the society of slavery through commercial means and wage slavery and, you know, money markets and all this bullshit could never, ever, ever exist because no one would believe in it. And if you take a word like credit, for example, credit comes from the Latin word credo, which means to believe. So everything we have in our society is belief-based only, and it's completely not founded in reality. And the fastest way to discover this and prove it to yourself is to study human bioelectricity and see how this relates to all these larger concepts of ecology and, you know, astrophysics and all these different things. Like, it's all interconnected through this one thing, which is called bioelectricity. Learn about it.